Yes.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Hey, what
in English and Spanish?
Yes, dude. Oh man, we'll get to that. I love that.
We
by
can
the
talk
way,
about that stuff.
yes,
We can
man.
talk about it. Hello, everybody. I tried
Number-
to join the chat, but I can't remember my Google password. It's all it's
Dude,
in
what I did to
the.
myself in the shower, man. I nicked my beautiful head.
Look at you.
It burns, dude. Anyway, man, welcome to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. I've got my moderator on for number 2 tonight, and oh man, just can't wait to dive into some of these stories. Oh man, it's a beautiful. First of all, we'll have to talk about this guy on the top because we've got a little bit of like we've got some. What the hell's going on with my green screen?
You're fine.
Don't worry about it. We've got a little bit of human. We've got a little bit of not human.
We'll Brother mine. Yes. That's Cautionado.
Yes. So excited to kind of dive into it.
The way I did that is I gave the artist the copy of the story, and I said, "Here's the story. Give me a cover that matches that."
I love. So you know what? Since you brought it up, let's go into that first. Kind of. Excuse me. Who is the artist? And
a guy named Felipe Braccioli. I've actually invited him to come on these shows with me, and he's not comfortable with his English. He's
okay.
From Portugal.
Portugal, that's
so
right. Yeah,
Portuguese. He reads and writes English, so we communicate in email. But his English spoken is not enough to make him comfortable coming on a show.
No, I've had a couple people who, it's weird. It's not weird. It's right. It's what's the word? It's kind of like I don't expect it. Right. Just being American, but I get it. Like there's people who speak English or write English or communicate in English that don't necessarily feel comfortable doing the live thing. And let's be honest, like if I speak very small, I could get by in Mexico or Spain, but just barely. So if somebody was like, "Hey, come on a live with me," and I'm just like, absolutely not. I could totally relate, man.
Yeah, I get it. And I would love to give them the opportunity. I made a point. So that's, like if you look at my book, and I'll do this for all of my people. If you look at the last pages, I do it about the author, but I also, I gave a page to the artist so he could say his, and then the guy that did the beta reader for me. I had an editor too. I've actually had a couple of editors because this is a collection of short stories that have been done over a period of time. So for the collection, I ended up just getting a reader to do a context across everything. Yeah. But for me anyway, I want to make certain that the people who help me make this come together also get credit. So awesome. You have the artist there, and then I also have a logo in there that he didn't want to give me a page, but I do give him credit for doing the logo in there.
Well, that's good, man. I think for a lot of reasons that lines up with what I know about you and who you are, man. So kind of we'll start out with this. Kind of go into a little bit of the experience you have. I know you've been on before, but for the people who didn't see that or maybe forgot about it, go into some of the experience you have and what you've done in the past that led up to your most recent release.
So, well, I've been writing for a long time. I'm one of those people who has stories that just crop up and they start to consume your brain. And if you don't write them down, they get in the way of day job. They get in the way of other things because I'll even be, driving down the road with my wife and I haven't heard a thing she said because I'm off in the Temra or off on a spaceship or something somewhere.
Do you get as much shit as I do about that?
Oh God. But what I do is I just write every day. So I get the words down and once I've started the story, I can focus on everything else. And it's been that way since I was not that big. I got the first book I claimed. I was 6 or 7 years old. It was one of those construction paper books. My mom still has it somewhere where I drew all the pictures and kind of did a picture book for myself. I was really proud of it. It was, as what you'd expect out of a child. It was terrible. But I had the aspirations. And then in college, I went for degrees that would help me be successful in life, but I took creative writing and all that in the background. In point of fact, if I had taken one more course in undergraduate, I would have graduated with an English degree instead of with a degree in advertising, which is also a different kind of storytelling. And
it is
that anyway, because I want to earn a living. But yeah, so I've always been into storytelling. And I sold my first story in college. And so for all of you that want to be surprised by this, I sold my first story to Penthouse.
That's so fun.
It was a Penthouse story.
That's a good first story.
It's still the best I've ever been paid. I got paid $400 for a story that was, I don't know, 2,500 words, something like that, which is that's a good paycheck.
Especially what year was that?
1992 or 3. I can't remember, 2 or 3, old, 92 or 3. So I got paid, and I got a really nice letter from the editor saying, "Hey, this is good." And she encouraged me. And I actually had a little bit of the curse of writing something well and getting encouraged, because then I thought I knew what I was doing. And the truth was, I didn't know what I was doing. I got a good hit, and then I got full of myself. And then I got a lot of bad feedback. While
from publishers?
Yeah, from editors and stuff, to encourage me to learn more. But the one thing that I've been fortunate with in my life is I know how to take my lumps. And so while I was very encouraged by selling something at, I think I was 20 or 21, while I was very encouraged by that, I knew how to get knocked down and pick myself up, and then do an honest evaluation of what I had done. And what I had in fact done, the problem with what I had is I disrespected my audience. The thing.
What do you mean? Kind of go into that.
Well, so okay, so since in that particular case, you're writing to a Penthouse crowd, you assume they're not consumers, that they just want to hear dirty words and that kind of thing. And that does not work. Anything you write romance, you have to respect the people who want to read romance as real audience, real readers. You have to give quality product no matter what. I mean, even if you're selling like plastic toys that are going to be put out in a press in China, you still have to respect the kid that's going to pick up the toy, or that it'll be the crappy Matchbox that ended out, standing up a chair instead of being, I've got this little Corvette that my son gave to me over here. It's a treasured thing that's been sitting on my shelf for 20 years. If you give bad product, it doesn't end out on the shelf as a treasured product. So
that makes sense.
When you're writing, you have to, no matter what you're writing, no matter what audience you're writing for, you have to give it the same kind of love as if it's one of your own children, or they'll know.
Ooh, I think that's a good point that you're making, man. And that, I didn't know that. This is one of those moments, and I'm like, the experience that I've had doesn't tell me this is a good moment, but what I hear in your experience is telling me this is a good moment. Apologize about the 8-month-old if you hear her. She's a little bit whiny.
I love children.
I know you do.
We can hear. It's fine.
But I think that's a good point. Especially being that first published work for you, because I would have assumed the exact same thing.
Of course.
Okay, these people, because you hear from your buddies or this joke that people, it's like, I love these magazines for the articles.
Oh yeah,
there are so many. That's true. Like there's so many people that's true.
Well, back in the day, and so that everybody understands, it was actually Stephen King that told me I ought to try. I don't know him. It's not like we had a conversation, but he got his start selling short stories to gentlemen's magazines because they publish short stories and they pay well.
And they used to be somewhat tasteful, right?
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing, is Playboy was always, straight down the line, literary fiction, usually very good stories. There's a lot of big names.
How long it's been since I've looked at a Playboy magazine, dude? Probably
since I was like 12.
Years. Yeah, it's been a while, so I don't even know what they look like. I swear to God.
I don't have a clue.
I couldn't tell you.
They were really good places to get your start. They bought from real high quality. And when I tried to sell that first story, I was going for the B tier. I knew I wasn't a multinational published author, so that wasn't an audience that I could get to. And I wasn't interested in Saturday Evening Post or other things like that, where you could sell short stories. But Reader's Digest, Saturday Evening Post, because the other
Digest. Oh my God, dude! I remember those like yesterday.
Minnesota Afternoon Journal. Because if you went out in the early '90s, you could get a list of places that would buy short stories.
I used to get mad at how many freaking stories there were in Reader's Digest as a kid, dude. I used to be like, "Where's the movies, though?"
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it was one of the places that you could sell short stories.
Now, if those were still around, I would be that guy that is there for the short stories. I would be.
Absolutely. But that was never my market. You've read what I write.
Yes.
The little old ladies aren't looking for what I'm writing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I gave it a shot, and the people that look at the work that you're doing. So that's the other thing. So anybody out here who's a reader, or not a reader, a writer, or potentially a reader, the editors, the slush fund or the slush pile readers, the editors, the people that are doing your press, those are people that are going to read your work. They're giving you their time. Every reviewer who picks up your book and reads it, you need to be giving them quality product. You're not doing them a favor by giving them your book. They're doing you a favor by picking it up and reading it. And if you give good quality product, thanks, Herman. If you give good quality product, then you'll receive from it. But if you're not giving your best, so never disrespect your audience, no matter who the audience is. If you write for 5-year-olds, assume that they're the connoisseurs of your product. And if you're writing for anybody else, treat them like what you're doing is top notch.
So by me saying this, don't anybody that's been on my channel that's in the chat or watching or will watch in the future, don't take this like that I don't feel the same about you, because I do, but I especially feel this with my guy, E.L. Montague. I can ask you anything and I feel comfortable doing so. When you say a slush pile reader, what do you mean?
So when you're going to out for agents or to publishers, one of the jobs of interns, so the kid that's working for free to get experience, there's a slush pile. All the books that people are trying to get somebody to read it used to be quite literally. My mom was a slush pile reader when she was in college, and she was actually an editor early on. By the time I was around, she wasn't, but and the job is you show up and then you take a story out of the trash can. Now that's back when everything was paper. I'm sure the slush pile is now a file server.
Sure.
But you take one of the stories out of the pile, and they go through a process where, they read the first paragraph. And if they're willing to keep reading, awesome. But there's lots of times your story comes up, they read the first sentence, you're in the trash pile.
Wow.
But it's more than that. So when my mom did the work, there were 4 people. So there were 4 interns that sat around a pile, and they'd take a story out.
And a publisher.
And if the story kept them until they read the whole story, they would hand it to the guy next to them.
Wow.
And if at any point it didn't keep them, it went into the trash.
Wow, dude,
and so
that's
you had
cool.
to make it through all 4 readers before it went to an editor. So that's your slush pile reader. And I don't know, we might have some reviewers in here. So like if you get into, like you right now are doing some reviews,
Mm-hmm.
in the big review houses, that's also an intern's job. That they create your slush pile readers read stories to say, I think somebody who matters should read this. So like, as an example, I don't know if this is the way it works for you. You can tell me. I think you get to review whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you were at a big magazine, they would give you a list of read one of these books. Well, the way you get on that list is a slush pile reader reads it and says, this is a good book. And if enough of the junior talent read it and say somebody who matters should have something to say about that, that's what it means to get through the slush pile.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So what I've been, with the time that I've been allotted, what I've been doing is like reading and then doing a Goodreads review, or like usually both. I started the year with like this promise of me having the time to do like recorded videos, which I do believe that will happen this year. It hasn't happened yet. And that's more, I have to say, that's more so on my issue. Like as far as I've had some time, until like, I would say 25 days ago, I haven't been very healthy. So I'm actually feeling great, dude. I'm building muscle and anything.
That's
But
awesome.
anyways, like very soon, that is going to be what I do from here on out, is doing those video reviews. I'm very excited for it because I think there's a crowd that loves what we do here, like the live thing. But I think there's going to be quite the uptick on subscribers when I do start those recorded videos, and I'm right there.
Absolutely.
So you guys hold on.
I think the recorded videos are going to make a huge difference in terms of pulling the volume in. And your slush pile, you just named it, is Goodreads.
Yeah.
If you just go out to Goodreads, or you go to Amazon, or you go to any of the review sites, you can look at it. You can say, just show me things that have 20 reviews. Because that's one of the things that it is so hard to get a review, because somebody has to look at your book and they want to pick it up. They have to invest at least an hour to get hooked. They have to read it and then feel enough that they're going to devote, somewhere between 10 minutes and an hour to write down their feelings about what you've done. So to get a review, you really have to impact somebody.
I have to say, I've just, like, I would say starting probably a month ago, actually being able to finish books. Like I've had so many books sent to me that I owe a review to, and I know that no author looks at it this way, but this is the way that I look at it for myself. And the latest one that I was able to get through was a gentleman named James Logan, and he really kind of broke it down for me, like kind of what you were talking about. He has his background as an editor. Like he would buy books, and based off what he read, it was very much like, hey, I see a lot of bad information on the internet. And I didn't know what he meant by that. So I asked him, and he said there's a lot of people that say, if you want to write an epic fantasy in particular, that it has to be like less than or at least 120,000 words, or like 120,000 words or less. And he's like, that is just the worst. He's like, and I didn't ask him for this. This is just something that had been on his heart that he wanted to let out. Right. He's like, if I was to give somebody a number, I would say between 120 and 160,000 words. But if it's less or more, like, don't hesitate at sending that in, because if I want more, as an editor or as a guy that like buys books or tells you, I want a trilogy, I'll tell you to expand on it. Or if it's good writing, I'm not going to let it sit there for no reason.
Right. Well, the old stories about you had to have a 60,000 word romance and an 80,000 word thriller and a 100,000, those blocks had more to do with the printer than they had to do with what sold in the market, because there was a very logistical truth. How fat could the book get and be successfully bound? Because if you make a book too big, the pages fall out. So you don't want that. And if you go way back, like you go back into the 60s and 70s and stuff, the whole thing about printing was you had to keep the printing press running. And so they were finding books that would fit in their run. They knew they were going to print a map starting on July 20th, and they were going to finish up with the last thriller from, I don't know, Stephen King on July 10th. So they knew they had a 10-day run, and they wanted something that would fit in the 10-day run. That's the kind of thing that they used to do. So back in the old days, getting in, you had to get in so that you were a quality book they thought they could sell. And then you had to be exactly the right size and shape to fit into the printing process and into the printing schedule. That kind of weird stuff used to happen. And it's just not true anymore.
That's a unique perspective you have too. Like, you were in it and kind of putting yourself out there in both eras. So
that's
you kind of had to relearn the rules.
Helps with that.
What is it?
The gray beard helps with that. Being an old guy lets you see the old way and the new way.
Well, I think that's cool though. Like, I think that it's totally cool that you get that kind of like, these were the rules, and then I had to kind of readjust my game, if you will.
Yeah. Now, I was not successful. I don't want anybody to. It's not like I'm successful or anything, but I've had a long time to learn to write. And part of it was,
but you have a full-time, very successful job, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I stopped chasing celebrity, or when you stop hunting for praise, you can start paying attention to the quality of your work. And the only person that I really want to make happy is me. So, if I'm writing and my heart thumps, or I cry, because I do cry when I write some of my stuff. If I do it right, I'll bring a tear to myself.
That's amazing.
Or I'll get excited, or I'll get sad, or whatever. And if I'm doing that, then I'm doing it right.
Oh, I love that, man. Because look, there's just something about like bringing those emotions to your work, whether it's marketing or writing or acting, whatever it is. It's also a part of some sort of art. And I think that if anybody takes the time or the investment emotionally to get that far into it, that they deserve what they deserve. Which kind of leads in, it kind of leads into this next question I have for you.
Sure.
Who were some of those influences as you were growing up, like that gave you this passion? I mean, you've been writing for a while, and I love that you're continuing to do what you find passionate. Who were some of those influences for you?
Well, so my 6th grade teacher took a bored kid who wouldn't pay attention in class and wouldn't read the stories that they gave. And she put The Hobbit in my hand. And while everybody else was reading, I don't even know what they were reading, Catcher in Their Eye, who knows, something. But the assigned reading, she handed me The Hobbit, and she said, if you read this book, I'll give you credit. And I was like, whatever. And then I read The Hobbit, and I was like,
now, had you heard about The Hobbit before
this?
Give me
another one. And she The Hobbit. I read it when I was 11 years old. Okay. And the thing is, that made me a reader. I was just completely bored, and I didn't care about any of the garbage we were supposed to read. As a more grown-up person, I understand why we had to read that stuff. But as an 11-year-old, it was drab, dull, terrible.
Sure.
And so she handed me The Hobbit, and I read it, and I discovered for the first time that I could consume a book, because, when I was forced to read, it was torture to get a couple of pages down. To get me to sit still for an hour to read was very difficult. But I read The Hobbit not in one sitting. I mean, I wasn't a very good reader, so it took me a week or two.
And it takes time to be a good reader.
Yeah,
it does.
You have to invest in it. But I didn't want to get up and leave it. I was in the Shire. I was connected to the kids, and I totally understood it. And we were fighting the, golem and getting the sword and the giants and the dragon. And it was all very exciting. Yeah. And so I got to the end of the book and I gave it back to her and I said, thanks. It was good. Of course, I was an idiot kid. And that was about all I could say about it. But she was like, oh, you liked that one? I was like, sure, I could read another. And she handed me the Wish Song of Shannara. Or the Wish Sword. I can't remember which one it was. Sword of Shannara,
yeah.
And then I read that one and I gave that one back to her. But by then I'd asked my mom for the next book. And so my mom bought me the Wish Song of Shannara. And so there's the sword, the stone, the song. I thought it was a trilogy, and it was a trilogy when I was a kid. But by then I was reading, and I started reading the crap that my mom was reading, which was, you should not let a 13-year-old boy read romance, but I read about Indians and buxom colonial women, and I wrote about pirates and billionaire. I read a lot of garbage.
All of our grandmothers, I have that picture of my grandmother Sorensen sitting in the rocking chair reading all those romance novels. Oh, absolutely.
Well, I gotta tell you, if you hand a romance novel to a 13-year-old boy, he all of a sudden discovered he can read that stuff and people will look at him and not think he should be in trouble. But I read all that stuff. The Shannaras are awesome.
Knox, I wanted to let you know that I was thinking about you the other day. I was like, you know what? I need some Knox in my life, and I'm so glad you're here. It's been a while, so I'm Hey, by the way, hey, what's up? I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, and it was actually my mom when I was reading her books. She thought perhaps I was reading too many romances, and she put a Tom Clancy in my hand.
Ooh.
And then I started down Tom Clancy, and I was like, I'm not even interested in that stuff. I want to read about spies and tough guys and soldiers. And so I read Tom Clancy, and I read, gosh, I mean, he wrote like everything back then. Papard or Papard, and I can't remember his name right now.
Dude, you know who I've been into lately? I cannot like.
You've been talking about.
Yeah, dude. Carr. Yes, man.
I've seen interviews with him, and he's a badass. Yeah,
he is, dude. Like his shit is just so digestible. I was talking, and I know you were there. I know you were, and you were commenting, and it's like with fantasy and sci-fi, it takes me a little bit of time, like a lot of time, actually, to get through a novel. It does. It's not easily digestible, but that's not a bad thing. So I get absorbed in that lore or the history or the character building or the world building. But with, and that's where my heart is, like 100%. That is where I love to read, because although I had this obsession at first of like binging this Carr novel, which I'm still like, I think I'm on chapter like 41, which is pretty fast for me. It still doesn't give me the excitement that epic fantasy or sci-fi or subgenres of each of those bring me.
Well,
but what it does do is give me that taste of something different that I need every couple other books that I need.
We all need candy.
Yes.
I mean, it goes down cheap, but it feels good. You're excited, and then you get to the end and you want another, but it's not the end.
It's not what I love. That's not where my heart is. It's not like epic fantasy, grimdark fantasy, sci fantasy. That's where my heart is, right there.
Oh yeah.
But I do enjoy a book every other. Honestly, probably every other book or every couple books that is just, I don't have to think too much, because I spend a lot of my time knights and necromancers or, but that honestly, man, that's what that is it for me. It has been proven.
I have always been a sucker for a good spy or a super soldier or
I mean this Carr novel starts out. It's like he's a Navy SEAL. His troops get killed in an ambush. His wife and baby girl gets murdered. His wife was pregnant with another boy, and now he's like, I'm going after the government, the U.S. government, who had a hand in all of this chaos. He's checking people off this list, and I can get behind that because I've got all those. I've got the wife. I've got the kids. I can understand where that would come from. But then I've got to go back, right? I've got to go where my heart feels good.
John Wick, and a patriot. You know, it's I'm going to go clean the list, but I'm also a soldier. I love that stuff. That's great.
Yes, and you know, I think
I just got called Sir Montague. Sir Montague, do you do edits or manuscript critiques? I'm happy to swap stories. I do a lot of work. Generally speaking, so let's talk about that because I have a writing group, and then I work with a lot of people. The place that started in that is chapter swaps. So you do a short story or a chapter at a time, because to Jim's point, it's a huge investment in time. So, you know, like you have to read it, and then you have to think about everything they said, and then you provide feedback. And part of what you do in that is you have to try and put your head in theirs, because like Jim, if you and I were to swap a chapter, I would read your chapter and I want to make the best Jim, not the best Ed. You know? And so I read through and I can try and tell you the things that are working and not working for your story. But I have to try not to, you know, in my case, not say, let's add a mobster right here. Or let's kill somebody. Whatever Jim is doing, I gotta work with that. So it takes a lot of thought. And the same thing goes when you read for somebody else. But this community is great. And if you work together, everybody's willing to make you better. And so there's something, I don't know how, of all the people here, I know Timothy has written 3 or 4 books, and he's got another one started. So he's got lots of experience.
Third coming out. Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know what everybody has. So for anybody watching, if you're new, one of the skills you have to pick up is how do I take criticism? Because handing your work to somebody else that you trust to hold it, and then getting a feedback that says, yeah, your baby's ugly. Man, that's
hard to take sometimes.
It's like getting kicked in the nuts. But the other side of that is once you can get past the butt hurt and you can see what they're saying, and you trust the people that you're working with to have your best interest in heart, you can absorb it and then make a better product. Because nobody wants to give you the time to read your work and then crap all over you because they want to crap all over you. They're trying to help. As a matter of fact, while I was waiting to start this, I started a review of somebody else's piece that was actually on let me get it out, on Tim's Dispute. Not Dispute, Discord. He has a Discord channel for chapter swaps, and somebody had posted, so I picked up that chapter and I started providing feedback.
And that in itself, man, you're taking your time, because that's something that I would love to do and that I can't wait to do, but I know how much time that takes, dude. Like that takes time, and that takes like.
Well, yeah, you owe me some writing, Matt. When you get there, send it. I'll provide you the feedback. I'll comment on everything you got.
Full disclosure, EL is the guy that is absolutely like my number one cheerleader to write, and I've been giving him a lot of excuses, and I have to own up to that.
So I'm going to tell you 2 things about that. So when I first started listening to Matt's channel, he talked a lot about wanting to write. I know he's kind of chilled on a little bit because he doesn't want to get too much encouragement right now. But I said, hey, I'll write a story with you. I'll write a story with you.
He did.
That first story that I wrote so that you and I could enter a contest, that's a book now.
Yeah, I kind of knew that until you just said that.
Yeah. So I took that short story, and then I thought maybe I'll write another one in the world. And I wrote 2 more in the world. And then I had 3, and I had about 40,000 words. And I said, I'm kind of digging this place. So I spent a couple months with it, and now it's 130,000 word.
Oh my gosh,
story
dude.
that could launch a whole nother string. It's side characters in the big book that I wrote, but yeah. So I wrote that with you in September.
I'm saying this live so everybody can hold me accountable. What's today? Today is the 27th. The 1st of July, I will have started my outline, and not just an outline, a detailed outline for where I'm going with my story. And that is going to hold me accountable, because I'll tell you why. When I first had this idea to write, when I say that I had no idea what it meant to write a story, I mean, I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
And then I was talking to authors, and when I started the previous story, I told myself, I said, I think that I can pants this. No, sir. Nope. I cannot keep a story cohesive pantsing. So now I know that I have to outline in a way that I know where I'm going, but also give myself that freedom to have that freedom to kind of, I don't know, like halfway between pantser and outliner. Because again, I definitely know I'm not a pantser. I'm not that guy. I know you are, but
I totally am. Well, I'm not totally. I have a board up here with notes on it, but I don't ever, I write them down as I'm thinking about it, but I don't ever follow the instructions. So
I think what I have to do, and this has come through, I think starting this channel not only showed me that I want to write, but how to for me. And that is outline basic plot points for each chapter, but give me that freedom to put the characters in a way that I can pants those. I don't know how to say it, but
no, I got you. I got you. It's loose outlining is essentially what you're talking about.
Because too strict is going to take the fun out of it for me, because I think so let me give you an example. I want to have Norse mythology, but at the same time I don't want to be so constricted by it, because this is where I found the issue when I started. And this kind of tells you, I hope this lets you know where, because I value your opinion, Yale. This is where it put me. I didn't know enough when I started writing to pants it. So when I learn a bit of mythology that I am inspired by, if you will, I'll write that into a chapter, or maybe even this how the book will end. I wasn't comfortable enough to just free write that, because I felt too perfectionist. I was going back and editing single sentences, and I was getting nowhere. And let me
single sentences over and over and over,
dude, and never having written before again. So in high school, I had like 2 or 3 good English papers, and that was it. And out of dozens, okay.
Right.
They had to be about very specific subjects. That, for instance, my favorite paper I ever wrote was about football. I know football inside and out. I know the 24 gap, the 26 gap. I know defensive end. I know wide receiver routes. I know everything that is about that. But that's why I wrote a good paper. So I had to take that and translate that into epic fantasy, which I've never been a part of ever until I started this channel. So in order for me to make that productive, I had to learn the points that I wanted to learn. For instance, like Valhalla, that's kind of the heaven, or the reward for living a warrior's life.
Reward for your afterlife. Well, if you're a valiant person.
If you're a valiant, exactly. So those type of inspirations for me, I had to kind of dig deep, and pantsing that just wasn't comfortable for me. So rethinking this whole writing thing, I had to translate that into how are my characters going to lead me into a finish that I will be able to say that is somewhat along those mythology points, without kind of messing that up, right?
So something that you might be running into, and I'm coaching session right now. Something you might be running into is you're putting the cart before the horse is one expression, but you're worried about the dressing and not the story. Story is character, conflict, and setting. Those are the things that make a story happen. So you have to have somebody that we care about. They have to want something and be opposed, and you need to put it in a place that we can see. And so if you really want to get started telling a story, don't worry about the Norse mythology. Don't worry about Valhalla. Don't worry about any of that. Just think something that matters to you. You're a dad.
Mm.
I'm a dad. My kids, it can be super simple. My kids need diapers, but there's ice on the road outside. And then there you go. That's a story. I have to get diapers, but the road is icy. And then from there you can say, and it's dark and there's a light sleet going. And, my wife is sick and the kids, somebody has to watch after the kids, but I have to get out to get diapers. And so we can all start feeling with you and seeing the thing that goes along with that. And if you learn how to just tell those simple problems, then once you know how to put together I have a person, they have a problem, they're in a certain environment, then you can start worrying about Valhalla and the big wolf and whatever you had to research to understand. You're an expert at being a human.
Mm.
So that's all you have to worry about. Tell a story that matters to you, and the rest of it's going to come together. And yeah, I saw Matt wants to be in your book.
I have a feeling there's going to be like a Matthias or something. There's definitely, there's going to be that sort of rendition, man.
Yeah, it's especially easy for you because you've got so many Matts. You can do a Matt and Tim adventure and just tell everybody, yeah, you're there.
In my Elden Ring game, I put 125 hours into this character that just did diddly squat, man. I sucked at the game. I still suck at it. But then I put a Matthias. Man, we're going places. Matt, I got you, dude.
All right.
I'm gonna put that in there. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna show you something else. I'll point it out. This one was the third story I wrote with you or for you.
Yeah, I do. Yes. The hold on. Let me get there. You got there way faster than me. Hold on. What's the name of the story?
It was the it's the why am I choking on it? It's the heart.
Know. The heart?
The heart.
Dude, I didn't know. I have to be honest, I didn't know that. I thought that I knew what you were talking about. I didn't.
Oh no. It's the last story that I put your name on. And for whatever reason, I'm choking on it right now.
I had no idea.
No, that I wrote the Found Heart. That's the one.
Found Heart. Yes, dude, I remember that.
And just so you guys know, and for people who like this kind of stuff, this tells you exactly the kind of stories I write. This collection is all from it's science fiction or science fantasy, really. From an android's point of view. So it's all the stories are about androids.
EL does dialogue like a gangster, guys. Oh man. I haven't read through the whole book yet, but I've read most of it. I have not read that one yet.
So that story is about a retired android spy. So this is after the wars. And what do you do with people who've been cast aside? I do lots of those kinds of stories. But he's working as a janitor on a space station, and he's running a little criminal organization. Well, not criminal organization. He steals stuff and then resells it. But he finds a dead body and cuts the heart out of it. It's the last story. That's why, dude, I haven't made it to the last story yet. Oh, you haven't got to the last story yet? You haven't read that one?
Not. I have not read the last story yet.
See, I'm giving him stuff away. Anyway, the essence of the story is he takes things and fixes them and then sells them, and it's kind of irrelevant to him whether or not somebody owns them already. And in this particular case, he repaired an auto surgeon, but he couldn't test it because he didn't have a dead body. And then he finds a dead body, so he steals the body in order
it's
to
like the last 30 pages. Yes, that's like, I haven't read the story before this or this one, so that's where I'm at. Is the last story, the last two
so
stories.
You got The Martian Consequence and Found Heart.
Yep.
Yeah. But so he finds a dead body, and instead of turning it in, he takes it back to his shop to test his equipment. And good things happen. It results in I'm not giving too much away with that, but it's got a little heart to it, and the Found Heart is double entendre. It's pretty great. It's a lot of fun.
So I have to say, anybody that's watching that is maybe questioning, hey, should I really send my chapters? Or, I have not even close found a guy that is half as helpful or encouraging as my guy. I want to call you Ed. That's who I know you as.
Yeah, that's fine.
Montague. So I have to say, man, that has been very special to me. I know I don't have a million hours of time to tell you that, but we're face to face right now, so I'm going to take that opportunity to let you know that means a whole lot to me, brother.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely, that. Dude.
And by the way, Jim, super touching that you quoted from my book right there.
A man without purpose is lost.
Right there.
Oh my gosh, dude. I've been preaching that. And now that I can put those, dude, I heard this. I've been watching a lot of podcasts. I wanted to be in the military. I couldn't because I have Crohn's disease. They found out I went to MEPS, and I actually had my leave date for the Air Force, and the military is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a career out of it.
Right.
So I've been watching a lot of the Sean Ryan show is the guy's name. And I heard my guy, what is his name? I can't remember his name for the life of me. A young man, or a man, period, without purpose is so dangerous. And I can just reflect that. That is the mirror for my life until I found purpose. That was my kids and my wife.
That's literally the reason that they use child soldiers in places where they can do it, is because they're big enough to be dangerous and young enough to be stupid. So you can guide them. And that actually is a theme in some of my stories too. But yeah, a man without purpose is lost. And in that particular story, the man is an android assassin who's been retired.
Oh man. Sorry, I got the table showing here.
Don't worry about it.
All right, we'll go. Hey,
we all have kids. You're fine.
But I find that so true, man. Like, I had never heard that before. And when I heard that statement, I was like, any man that uses their influence, and the guy that I'm talking about has incredible influence, like on Fox News. He is an incredible soldier. He's been there. He's done that. And he looks back on his life and he's like, man, a man without purpose is dangerous. And it's like, I can relate to that, So I'm so glad that kind of reflects in something you've written.
It's what it is to be a man, what it is to be a father, is one of those things that shows up in a lot of what I write. Now, fair warning to people, I do write about bad people.
Gritty.
Criminals fascinate me. So I write about a lot of killers and thieves, and just regular old bad people. They fascinate me. But I could write about grandma's trip to the choir, but it's not very interesting.
It's hard to relate to, right? Oh my gosh.
I just love writing about people that do bad things, and it makes them interesting.
I mean,
ethics.
It's easy to relate to, for even if you haven't really done those bad things, right? Like it's it's easy to translate that into something that we've been through or seen somebody else go through.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So, so here's a question of the group. Some of you have read my book and you've read at least this far. I started that collection with a story about an assassin going back to work. That some people thought that was a pretty hard story.
So
I could actually tell from the Kindle reads when people pick up the book, they read the first story and they're like, "This isn't for me."
Really? Okay,
Oh,
because
yeah.
look, there's grittiness. I get that. Like, but at the same time, for me, it wasn't. I didn't put all my weight into how gritty a story was. It was like, and I do this for a lot of the books that I read. In fact, probably all of them anymore, because I picked up books when I was pretty mature as far as
Right.
where I've been in my life. That doesn't stop. I look for the meaning. So I can understand why somebody would say, hey, this may be a little too harsh for me. This may be a little too gritty. But at the same time, for me, it wasn't about how gritty it gets. It's about what does this story translate to?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I'm certain that I lose some readers with that first story. Although I have to tell you, if you read that one, and you're going to be fine with the rest of my storytelling. But the other side of that is, if you didn't read that one first, you might be surprised by some of my storytelling.
That too. I don't know. For me, again, it was just always about like, what do I don't know how to put it in words. Maybe like, what is the story? It's not the story. It's like, what does this say to me? What is the deeper meaning? What does this say about the person that I'm kind of like obsessing about what they did, right? Because I don't want to give too much away.
Yep.
What they did, what does that say to me as far as why they did it? You know what I mean? So
yep. If you're getting a little extra noise from me too, my eldest, for those of you, well, none of you know, I have a special needs child and he gets a little excited sometimes. So
absolutely.
He's being a little loud right now.
All good, man. So, hey, what's up, Bard? Dude, what's going on, man? I just caught your latest video. I think it's your latest video about your like most anticipated Grimdark books.
Yep.
Dude, I got you, dude.
It was a good collection.
Yes, it is.
I've already reposted that one. That was good. Good showing.
It's excellent, and he's a smart guy. I like to watch his videos.
Yep.
Knox, man. I don't mean to say man. I know you're obviously a female, but when I say man, that's just like an endearing comment. But I'm so glad to see you here. I don't know. I can't remember who I was talking to. I was like, I miss seeing Knox here. So seeing your face pop up here, it makes me feel so good.
Yep.
So what are you working on right now, and kind of what's coming up for you, man?
So I'll tell you, I decided I was going to do a series of collections of short stories, because I've got gobs of them. And I am here. I'll tell you exactly. I am 2,500 words short of finishing the edit on the next collection. 120,000 words.
Is it fair to say you're a bigger fan of telling short stories?
No. I actually like telling novels.
Okay.
But one of the things that I do, give me 1 second. I'm going to shut this door just so you're not getting.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Do your thing, man. We're live. Well, this is all good. This is why I do lives. We do our thing.
Sorry about that. We got life going on.
Where's your Texas banner at, by the way? I always look for is it pointed up there? Texas. We all, yes. The Second Amendment's in full view, baby. Yes. And I fully support it. Anyway.
Yeah. So, but what I do is when I tell my stories, I end up writing short stories. So I've got gobs of short stories that have to do with my longer works. So since you and I started doing our work together, so I wrote the short story that became the foundation for a novel. So that's 130,000 word novel that follows along with The Marked Men. I completed The Seed of the Temera, which is a 300,000 word epic fantasy. I re-edited my serial killer novel.
Oh,
yeah, I've got a serial killer. It's a modern thing. I write under a couple of different names. And then I put together another collection. So I have 2 collections, 2 novels, and an edit. So what I think I'm going to do is the collection will be ready. I'll probably put it out in August. I should have artwork for it by Saturday.
okay.
He asked for a little extension on his timeline, but I've already seen the sketches for the cover, and I'm really excited about it. So I'll have the next collection should come out probably August. And then I think an urban fantasy that I wrote 2 years ago that's ready for a cleaning, and I think I might publish the urban fantasy, and then I'll do a rewrite on The Marked Men, and I've got other new stuff to do. And of course, one of the things that I brought out this time is this is a horror anthology. So a shout out to the anthologies that do so the small presses that do anthologies.
I remember you saying that
they're doing God's work there, giving places for people to get started. And so the next collection I've got, I'm either going to do fantasy or horror. I'll pull those together. So if anybody out there has an opinion as to whether or not I should put out my fantasies next, or if I should put out some horror, make a comment. I will.
I'll make my comment live. I'm in, like, I just made a comment on Twitter. I need something that's going to like traumatize me.
I can traumatize you.
Oh, do it. Yes, dude.
I can give
my wife is like scared of that, and I'm like, bring it on, dude. Bring it on. Bring me the horror, man.
Well, I've got a couple actually in the collection that I'm doing right now. The first story is kind of horror-y, but it ends out showing up in other pieces. You prefer urban fantasy? I actually have the whole urban fantasy novel. So
I like urban fantasy. I think that's what brings me to be easily digestible as far as like thrillers I tell you about. Like, it's like the way I put it, it's if anybody retells the story that I can see as my day-to-day, but adds their story to it, right?
Right.
That's much more digestible than a 962, the year 962 BC or AD or and now that's where my heart is, you know this. But as far as being digestible, that's where I take my palate cleansers, if you will.
No, that's good. That's good. I support that.
Oh, look at that. She said the exact same thing.
Yeah, she did say the exact same thing.
Look at you,
so yeah, I can put out the urban fantasies. Absolutely.
That would be so cool,
they also trend towards paranormal for me too. So
yes.
So witches, wizards, werewolves, vampires, other.
There's a werewolf
Filipino thing. I wrote a story about sarong.
I haven't read this yet, but dude, I got to read this. My guy, Steve McHugh, I have to have him on some point, but those who dwell in darkness, it's like him being I believe like hold on. Vampires and humans live side by side thanks to an uneasy peace maintained by the assembly. As an arbiter for the powerful organization, Miles Watson is authorized to act as judge, jury, and executioner for anyone, living or undead, who breaks the law. But now Miles is up against a threat more sinister than anything he's seen in his centuries as a vampire. Come on.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, right?
Pretty cool. So hold it up. Go buy his book.
There it is.
I'll
Steve
tell you,
McHugh.
buy my book, but go buy his book too. That's good stuff. Philippine. Yeah. So there are some really cool monsters and goblins out of the Far East. And the Philippines has some really cool ones. The one that I'm talking about is it's kind of like a vampire, but what they do is hunt pregnant women and eat their babies.
Oh wow, yeah, darkness, bring it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Oh,
they're they're a rough crowd.
it sounds like it, but I'm all about it, man. I'm all about
Yeah,
the
no.
I'm
So
all about the traumatization.
yeah, yeah. So that's pretty much where I am. I'm writing, and I've got more novels to come. But once I decided I was going to start publishing, I've got I've got uh, I've got 7 novels. I'll have 8 soon enough. That I can pull out of the trunk and publish them. And I've got a couple of hundred short stories. I've been doing this a long time.
That's what's so exciting to me, as I know that you can just pop these out, dude. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm a quick writer too. I write, I can write
quick.
2,500 words a sitting.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Most people don't write like that.
No,
but it's also, that's a lot of years,
Yeah.
You get in the habit and you write and you work and you get to where you know what you want to put down. And the more you do, the cleaner you get, that kind of stuff.
So, man, I absolutely always enjoy our time together. I think we should do it more. I think we should come up with a reason to come together once a month, or at least twice a month, something like that. Just to come together and talk, man. It's always so natural. I like to keep them at night about an hour anymore, just because I know the baby will wake up. But I do really, truly, it's never an issue with like topics with you. It's like always so natural. So I just want to say thank you again, man.
Yep. All right. So I know how to do this part of it. This is my book. It's nice.
Hold on. You're frozen. Hold on.
Oh, am I?
Yes, you are. We have to see it. Let's see
if we can. Can you see it? All right. Now?
Not quite yet. Here, hold on. I'm gonna take you off and then bring it back on.
Now?
Hold on.
Tell you what, hold up your copy.
Yes, I will hold up my copy. I can still hear you. I don't know why. Here it is. Hold on.
So he's got a copy of my book.
There it is.
7 stories. They'll read from one of them's about a half an hour long, and the longest is about 2 hours long. If you just sit and read it, they're all complete stories. They're good fun. They're characters that show up in other works. I think you'll enjoy them. Guaranteed to be gritty and full of smart talking people. Somebody's going to die. There'll be a mobster. It'll make you question your ethics. So go out, buy the book, enjoy it. It's on Kindle Unlimited. You can do it on Audible.
I've made it easy. Spanish. I've made it easy, guys. It's in the description below. You don't have to work too hard for it. I promise. It is in the description. So I don't know, for some reason, and you're not popping up, but hey, at least it waited till the very end of the conversation. So there he is. I am.
Here
he is. Yeah.
And then the other part of that is, if you are listening to it now or you're listening to it later and you haven't subscribed.
Yes, you have an audiobook.
Subscribe. Yeah, I do have the audiobook. Subscribe, like, share it with your friends, tell people, put it out there on Twitter. The more we get this spread around, the more people know, the better we get. Carpe diem, seize the day.
It is. Seize it.
There we go. I really enjoyed it. For Jim, I'm easy to find on Discord or Twitter. Just shoot me a note and we'll get connected.
Jim, I feel like you're in my Discord. If you're not, man, it's in my stuff, my thing. Just click on it. EL's right there. If you don't find it, you just message me, my friend, and I got you, dog.
We'll get you hooked up.
Yes. All right, man. So EL, thank you so much, man. And thank you everybody that was here live. Catch the replay if you didn't, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Thanks, guys.